Welcome to the first impressions video on the Gracidea Draft League Season 1 run by Crit and Science. This will be a video, like a quick review of each team in the league done by me, Colin, and Noel.
I am Noel, hello.
Well, we can just start right now. Go straight to the Vegas Corviknights.
Before we start, the league format is... Just say what the league format is.
Alright, the league format is national decks, and there are no Z crystals. So that's something to keep in mind. So all the Pokemon will be available for use.
Definitely an interesting video. This is going to be me and Colin both being from the FNF server, which Crit is also in, and so we're not participating in this. We don't have any stakes in this, so we're gonna try to just analyze this to the best of our ability. This is kind of just like I'm going in blind, and Colin didn't really know about this league before today, I think. So this is gonna be interesting to try and analyze.
Yeah. Alright, so should we go to the first team?
Yeah, let's start with the first team.
Alright, so the first team is the Vegas Corviknights, run by Sinister. And this team is very, very offensive with some good bulk. And it does have quite a few stealth rockers. Like in Cradily, Tyranitar. Does Gastrodon get stealth rock?
I don't believe so. I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
Okay, well that doesn't get stealth rock, but he does have two pretty reliable stealth rock setters. He does have Tyranitar, who looks really good for this team because it switches in on a lot of things that this team is weak to. Like it switches into rock moves for Moltres, and dark moves and ghost moves for Alakazam. Since this is a Natdex league, Pursuit Trapping is still available, which does weaken Mega Alakazam quite a bit, but also. Sinister has probably the best Pursuit Trapper in the game, which is pretty good. And he also has Kartana, which is just like, he has the two hardest hitting on both sides of the spectrum, Kartana physically and Alakazam especially, which is kind of crazy. He has two of like the best sweepers / breakers in the game. They are really frail, but this team does have bulk to make up for it. He only has one Defogger, unless like Rabombi gets Defog. I don't think it does, and that's pretty scary. But he's not super rock weak. I think his only rock weak Pokemon is actually Moltres
and Rabombi.
Yeah, and Rabombi, who actually can set webs, which makes Kartana very scary and basically nullifies Choice Scarf, making Alakazam outspeed mostly everything that's not Mega Aerodactyl or a Scarf Flying or Levitator.
That's something that I immediately noticed when I was first looking at this team. The offensive presence that this team carries, combined from the fact that there's Rabombi with Sticky Web, combined with Kartana hitting extremely hard on the physical side and having great speed, Mega Alakazam hitting extremely hard on the special side, and also Moltres as well hitting very strong on the special side. Sinnoh can be a nice cleaner on the physical side, and all of these four Pokemon are immensely boosted by webs being up. After webs, most things with Choice Scarves won't be able to outspeed and KO the rather frail Mega Alakazam and Kartana on the physical or special side, respectively. And there's a lot of really good type coverage that all those Pokemon cover for each other. So that's a dynamic that I think this team is going to really use to its advantage. The Sticky Web combined with those very strong attackers that can outspeed things even with Scarves after the webs.
Yeah, also, Porygon 2, Gastrodon, very bulky.
Yeah.
Together. And then, like, any grass move aimed at Gastrodon is just a free inning to Kartana. So, very dangerous defensive core, like a small little defensive core there, because they're just both really bulky Pokemon. And this team seems pretty strong overall. It does seem a little weak to fighting types with Edgequake, because like Kartana hits by fighting, Ribombee hit by rock, Moltres hit by rock, Malamar is neutral, Cradily hit by fighting, and then etc. etc. Mimikyu does help aid that a little bit, which is really good. And I think this team is really strong overall, especially offensively, but also it's not really a slouch defensively either.
One thing that I'm looking at is the fun little sand group that's going on in this team. Tyranitar being able to set up a sand stream to increase its special defense, and not only that, Cradily massively benefits from sand as it becomes extremely bulky in sand. Gastrodon could also even use Sand Force for a fun little gimmick. It's probably not something that this team is going to be using a lot, I think, just because it's kind of inferior to the web offense it has going on, but it is something that it can use, especially because it might be unexpected, and that would be a nice little surprise. So that's also something fun to consider as well.
I'm not gonna lie, I am a little surprised this team didn't draft Dracovish, but that's not really part of this. So we can just move on to the next one. I do think this team is very strong and versatile.
Alright, so we'll move on to the next one then.
Yeah. The second team is the Texas Toxapexes, who is coached by Zombification. This team seems pretty decent at a first glance. It has web support and rock support from its double bugs, which is a little worrying that there's double bug on this team, but I don't think it's a huge deal considering how they're just both there pretty much to set hazards. Vikavolt hits really hard, so that could be useful. This team does have quite a few overlapping typings. Also, why is Mr. Mime Galar water type?
Oh, it's ice type and psychic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's ice psychic. He, like, 2 psychics, 2 bugs, 2 poisons, 2 electrics. It's just a lot of overlapping typings. It's not a huge deal. It just means that this team does share quite a few common weaknesses, which might be a little worrying. Double electric doesn't really matter since one has levitate and the other is just 4 times weak to steel. Ground.
There's actually quite a few Pokemon that are immune to ground due to the levitate and flying.
Yeah, so Magnezone seems to synergize really well with this team because he has like 1, 2, 3, 4 like easy switch-ins to ground types, and it also Magnezone removes steel types, which is really helpful for Venusaur and Tapu Fini to get going. And Fernape is also really good. It's really versatile. It can hit pretty hard on both physical and special side. It also gives some priority. This team is really fast. It has good speed tiers, or at least decent speed tiers. Yeah, it's pretty fast with a few really slow Pokemon. Both his hazard setters, other than Uxie, are really slow. But he does have quite a few hazards. Crustle, Uxie, Vikavolt, and even in Fernape if he feels the need to for some reason, even though Uxie's a great setter.
Even Crocodile.
Yeah, and also Mr. Mime Galar gets Rapid Spin, I'm pretty sure. And Mega Pidgeot gets Defog, and so does Tapu Fini. This team has insane hazard game. On top of that, Crobat really likes Boots, which got added in Gen 8, and so does Vikavolt, so it can switch in and set webs multiple times per game without being worn down super easily. This team hits pretty hard offensively, and it hits really fast. Like, this team is incredibly speedy. Like, Crobat, Mega Pidgeot, really fast Pokemon, and then you have Infernape at 108, which is really fast as well. Removing Steels opens up a couple Pokemon, Crobat, Venusaur, Vikavolt specifically, and maybe even Mr. Mime if it's an offensive set.
I think that this team really would benefit from Boots and Spinning or Defogging, because there are quite a few rock weak Pokemon on this team. Specifically, half the team is actually weak to rocks, and only Magnezone and Crocodile resist rocks, so Stealth Rock will be a big problem for this team.
Yeah, and then again, this team is also weak to fighting types with Edgequake, because fighting hits the 2 rock resists on this team, which is kind of not ideal. But this team hits hard, it hits fast. It's got quite a few good Scarfers and Crocodile, and maybe even Magnezone if you want to outspeed a lot of Steels. And it's just got great speed tiers. I haven't looked at the rest of the team, but this team has really good hazard removal, and it probably might have the best, just with the sheer amount of defoggers and sheer amount of rockers overall. This team, pretty bulky, pretty offensive. It doesn't have any incredible breakers, but just not awesome. But it hits pretty hard. It just might get walled by certain things.
Yeah, one thing I see with this team is that there are some good Pokemon in terms of speed, but there seems to be kind of a lot of middle ground with speed, a lot of middle ground with attack in terms of no breakers, a lot of middle ground with defense, in that there's some bulky Pokemon, but there's not extreme bulk. So this team kind of navigates this gray area between a lot of archetypes, and that could be a pro and a con.
This team is probably somewhat difficult to prep for if you don't have anything to wall it, but if you do have a special wall sense, like Chansey, this team will really struggle to beat Chansey, really badly, because not much is super physical other than Crocodile and
Infernape.
Yeah, so I think Chansey, something like Chansey would be a huge problem for this team due to lack of breakers. But if a team is balanced, just a balanced archetype, this team might be really, really, really difficult to prep for.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Okay, I think we can move on to the third draft. The Miami on Mega is coached by Boldnock.
Shout out to Miami. That's my city.
This team is Latias, Heatran, and DDM, male, Seisman, Drapion, Appleton. What do these numbers mean? Is that the order they were drafted? Because
it seems to be alphabetical.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, yeah, that would make sense, I guess. This team, I don't know what I really think about this team at first glance. It has a really, really good bulky core with Corviknight, Latias, and Heatran. And then Seismitoad blocks electrics that might be aimed at Corviknight. So Corviknight has a lot of support with this team. I think it was a really good pick, especially because it's so bulky. It has an immunity to both of its weaknesses. So this team, so Corviknight automatically just has incredible support and can come in on so much because it's not really worried about eating super effective hits too often. This team has incredible defensive core with Latias, Heatran, Seismic Toad, and Corviknight. And that also really, really does a good job of controlling the hazard game. With Corviknight being probably the best defogger in the whole game, in standard draft, because it's just so bulky. It can come in on so much. It can defog. It can roost. It's just really difficult to kill, unless you're hitting it super effectively. And like I said, immunities to both of its weaknesses. And then Latias, good wish support. Indeedee can set up Psychic Terrain for Beedrill. So Beedrill can really go wild, since physical priority is probably one of its biggest weaknesses. And then Psychic Terrain just completely blocks that. Indeedee also got Expanding Force, which hits so hard on so much. Intimidate support with Scrafty and another sweeper if Beedrill wasn't enough. This team is slightly ground weak, however, he probably has one of the best ground type switch-ins to the game, which is Corviknight, and then Latias with Levitate. And then Appleton was a big boy who takes a lot of hits. So this team is just really well synergized with great bulk and pretty decent hazard game, despite only having 2 rock setters and 1 defogger and 1 spinner, I think. Does Aromatisse spin?
No, at least not in Gen 7. I don't know about Gen 8, but I don't think it does. But I think Corviknight as a defogger works well anyways for this team.
Yeah.
I think this team has a really nice defensive core, like you said, as well as pivot game. Mega Beedrill, when it's in danger, Heliolisk, even a Corviknight can all pivot out of there and switch into one of the other Pokemon to take some of the moves that they can't handle. And I think that overall this is just a really well-made team. Even some unexpected archetypes can come in. Aromatisse being really great in Trick Room, for example. So it could set up a Trick Room for itself and, let's say, Scrafty. Not really something I think we'll see from this team, but it's an option. It's there. So
Appleton's also good in Trick Room, base 30 speed.
Yeah, so that's also something to consider. This team, I think it's balanced really, really well. There's just so much it could do. There's so many hits it could take. It has options for so much. It has options for hazards, hazard removal. It has options for physical switch-ins, special switch-ins of every type. It could hit hard on both sides. It could pivot. It could wish pass. It can set up terrain. It could set up Trick Room. There's just so much this team could do. I think this is actually looking like a really strong and fun team.
I love how one of this team's biggest weaknesses would be fighting against Corviknight, and then this team drafts Corviknight, and then it eliminates probably one of its biggest problem Pokemon.
Yeah, this is a really smart draft for sure, I'd say.
We can move on to the next team. This team is just really good overall. The next team is Lazy Littens, coached by Shiro or Shiro. I don't know how to say it.
I think it's Shiro.
Alright. This team... Okay, you can start with this team. I need to think about this one.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to say I really like the logo. It's so adorable. I really like this sleeping Litten logo, so shout out to Shiro for making that. So, first impressions from this team, it does have some potential in terms of bulk. Right off the bat, I notice Sylveon is their really effective cleric that can pass wishes to things that can't recover, such as Mudsdale, which is an extremely bulky and resilient Pokemon. Those two together can handle quite a bit. There's also Arcanine, which is rather bulky for a fire type, especially with Intimidate. And then you have 2 regenerator Pokemon that can come in and out as they please, as well as Dugtrio to trap problem Pokemon that might be a problem for any of the others. So the first thing I notice about this team is how it has really nice defensive capabilities with the combination of the clerical role, the bulky Pokemon, and the pivots. But there are also some offensive Pokemon as well. The 2 speedy offensive Pokemon I'm noticing, Scizor and Thundurus. Of course, Noivern and Arcanine could also be good. And again, Dugtrio can be good offensively. It's like its best role is definitely trapping and killing things, but it could also be a cleanup sweeper at the end game. So right off the bat, there's a lot going on. Stoutland.
Arena Trap is banned.
Oh. Oh. Well. That is something I forgot. So Dugtrio might struggle a little bit more due to that fact. I'm not really sure then what Dugtrio and Stoutland are doing on this team. I mean, they can be pretty good, but without Arena Trap, Dugtrio is definitely outclassed by a lot of other Pokemon.
Like, even as the electric immunity, Mudstill is just way better.
Yeah.
It might just be, like, for speed, even though Noivern's 123. The first, like, big thing I noticed is, like, Mega Scizor, Arcanine, and Toxapex. He has, like, Flash Fire, and then, like, the gods switch into Fire-type moves. So he has a lot of ways to just, like, keep Scizor healthy, because he has so many ways to punish fire types for using fire attacks on Scizor.
Yeah.
Like, Noivern free inning. Arcanine gets boosted if you use a fire type attack. Toxapex toxics or sets up a toxic spike on you. Or Dugtrio could even really come in on some fire moves if it's not hard enough hitting.
Well,
this team also has Rapid Spinning and Eldegoss and Defog and Noivern.
Yeah.
And also Thundurus, but Thundurus doesn't defog. I think he might have just picked up Dugtrio as a backup rocker. Like, just a super fast rocker. If he doesn't think Mudsdale gives him enough momentum. Stoutland might just be there for Intimidate support. Because you can just Intimidate and that might help get Mienshao in or Noivern because they're both relatively frail. This team it's really good defensively, especially with Scizor. I can tell he built around Scizor and it worked out pretty well. But he doesn't have like too much offense outside like Mienshao, Thundurus, Noivern hits hard, but it doesn't hit that hard. I would say the main offensive presences are Scizor, Mienshao, and Thundurus.
Yeah. And
like,
somewhat Arcanine, depending on the set and how it's used.
So overall, this team has defensive synergy, but it's not like super offensively built. It's more of a defensive team with like Thundurus and Scizor on it, and Mienshao. Mienshao is really good for this team.
I'd say that one thing this team would have to watch out for is bulky water types that have some offensive presence, such as Milotic. The reasoning being that it would be really hard to break through Milotic, and once Thundurus goes down, that would exponentially increase that difficulty, and Milotic can hit Thundurus switch in with Ice Beam if it predicts correctly.
I think Eldegoss is actually pretty good for this team. It's a third regenerator Pokemon.
Oh!
And it gets Leech Seed as well, so that might just like cripple bulky waters comes in on bulky waters because, like, especially like Milotic, if it's like it has 120 special defense, so this thing is actually pretty bulky, and it does deal with bulky waters pretty alright. And Thunderous Tea is probably one of the best bulky water counters in the game if you get it in on a neutral interaction.
Yeah, it's just going to have to be careful because it has a lot on its plate in dealing with bulky waters. I'm not sure how well Eldegoss could break, but yeah, Regenerator, like, break through bulky waters, but it could certainly, like, stand against them.
It could annoy them
with,
like, Leech Seed. I think it might get Sleep Powder even. So it could just, like, Leech Seed, Sleep Powder, Rapid Spin, and then move to hit them.
And it would really benefit, I think, from Sylveon's Heal Bell, because bulky waters would probably want to Toxic it.
Suicune would destroy this team.
Yeah, Suicune looks pretty well equipped to deal with this team. Again, except Thunderous Tea, but once Thunderous Tea goes down, then it's going to be a lot harder to deal with bulky waters, like, specifically like Suicune, that can deal with a lot.
Yeah, it's like sub. Eldegoss might struggle with a substitute.
Yeah.
Calm Mind, because it only has 80 special attack.
And it seems like it would want defensive investment anyways.
Yeah, so we can move on to the next team, which is the Grim City Glissopods, coached by Iron Quacker. Okay.
Alright.
I'm just gonna say, Melmetal is really good. So, that's just like, first thing you notice. My team doesn't have to have any offensive presence. And like, if it has Melmetal, it already has a good offensive presence on its own. And on top of that, this team has Bulu. So,
this team is looking really strong defensively with Dusclops, Gligar, Tapu Bulu, Metagross, Cresselia, Melmetal, Blastoise. There's just so many defensively capable Pokemon on this team that are also going to benefit from Tapu Bulu's Grassy Surge in giving double leftovers or leftovers if they don't have them. Cresselia, there's so much defensive presence on this team that it's going to be really hard to break through this team. This team does have some strong attackers too. I do think that Mega Blastoise does not get Shell Smash in this league.
It does not, it is banned.
Okay, so there's that. But Mega Blastoise, Hitmonlee, Salazzle, and Melmetal, and Bulu too, can all hit pretty hard. So there's a nice defense and also some nice offense too.
So double steals plus Bulu instantly, pretty solid, since like you aren't gonna hit Bulu with a poison move, because if you try to hit Bulu and it's predicted, Melmetal's just gonna come in, click a move, and it's gonna hurt something really, really bad. Metagross, same deal, but it can also set rocks if you're not careful. It can just bullet punch, it gets set up, yeah, so Bulu has a really good synergy with the double steals. I think Salazzle's here just for the coverage, and also it benefits from Grassy Surge and Grassy Terrain. So does Dracozolt. Dracozolt might be really, really good with that Scarf Hustle. Hustle is not an amazing ability, but like Bolt Beak will hit so hard, and it will hit like any flying types or anything that's like weak to electric moves will just straight up die to a Bolt Beak, like a Hustle Bolt Beak with a Choice Scarf.
One thing that I think this team really wants is a Cleric, because a lot of these bulky Pokemon like Metagross, Dusclops, Blastoise don't have access to recover or any reliable recovery moves. So I think a Cleric would have really helped this team. But despite that, Tapu Bulu's Grassy Surge being able to provide additional leftovers to things will be really beneficial. Another thing I'm noticing is that fire could be a problematic typing for this team, in that the only Pokemon that really resist fire are Salazzle, Blastoise, and Dracozolt, but Salazzle doesn't want to be hit by anything hard in general, even resisted. And I don't know what Dracozolt's recovery abilities are, but it's a lot of pressure to put to handle fire types on those Pokemon.
I mean, Dracozolt is kind of bulky, and it gets Volt Absorb if you're not running Hustle for some reason. I don't think it gets... I'll just check if it gets any recovering moves real quick. Its best recovery move is Rest.
Well, there you have it.
It's not good. You could run Volt Absorb just to keep it healthy, but I think you'd want to run Hustle, Choice Scarf 9 games out of 10 since you're only base 75 speed. But this team just hit so hard, and like, it is weak to fire, but fire is not getting any free switch-ins to this team, really. Because Melmetal gets Earthquake, Metagross gets Earthquake.
I could see a bulky fire type like Arcanine actually doing pretty well versus this team, because once a Grassy Surge is up, Earthquake isn't going to hit hard.
Oh yeah, Melmetal also gets high horsepower, so kind of just dodged a bullet there. But that is true, Metagross doesn't really get access to big earthquakes. And then he also does have Pincurchin, which is here for some reason. I don't know why Pincurchin's here, I'm gonna be honest. Doesn't really help anything.
Maybe to boost Dracozolt? I don't know.
Probably that would be the most reasonable reason to have Pincurchin. Even like having a second terrain setter doesn't really help that much, especially when you have like technically 2 electric immunities. I don't really know why Pincurchin's here. I don't think it has to be here.
Well, it could help in, I guess, taking down bulky water types, which might give this team trouble outside of Bulu and Dracozolt. And it could reset the grassy terrain so that Bulu can set it up at its free will. So maybe that.
I guess, yeah. We can move on to the next team. Crown Torterras, coached by It's Stonky. Just looking at this team. Rain team with Beartic. Automatically cool. Kingdra got buffed. Kingdra's really, really good now with Flip Turn. It has really, really dangerous pivoting utility because it's just got Stab Flip Turn in the rain, which is just gonna hit really hard. Zero Aura pivots. Zero Aura is just fast pivots. Beartic hits really hard in rain. Tangrowth comes in on ground types that might want to hit Zero Aura. Yon Mega comes in on ground types that might want to hit Zero Aura. This team is actually really, really freeze dry weak.
Yeah.
This team gets destroyed by freeze dry. Like a Scarf Vanillux would wreck this team. Cobalion really helps out with Stealth Rocks and is just really bulky. 91 HP, 129 defense.
It's nice in rain too, as it gets that fire moves are powered down.
Yeah, just like a lot of times though, I don't think that Cobalion particularly enjoys the boosted power of Hydro Pumps with its 72 special defense. That's the only reason why I'm not too sure it's super happy, but it still enjoys the rain with weakened fire moves. Swampert, really, really strong sweeper. Bear Tick, strong sweeper, but only with rain, otherwise it is useless. Dry Skin, Toxicroak gets some more reliable recovery. Rain helps Tangrowth a lot by weakening fire moves. Tangrowth actually has pretty solid synergy with this team, because it's just multiple ways to block poison. You got 2 ground immunities, and it's just like supporting the rest of the team pretty well. It also resists electric, so it could just be a secondary switch in to electric moves if you're not sure that they're going to click an electric move on Pelipper to predict Swampert or something. So it's more just like a catch-all switch in. I think it works really well with this team, especially with Regenerator and Wish from Florges.
Yeah. This team has the ability to really go hard in the rain and then slow things down by switching to Tangrowth and Florges and setting up when it feels more comfortable, setting up that rain up again and setting that offensive pressure again. Once Florges and Tangrowth go down, this team can struggle a little bit. I think that poison types with additional coverage, like if something has like Poison Jab and Earthquake to take on the defensive Pokemon, it could be a problem. Tangrowth still has amazing defense, even like taking super effective attacks, but it is something to keep into consideration. But overall, this team does look really solid when rain is up.
Yeah, like Thunder kind of just like Yanmega really helps as well with offensive momentum because it just like speed boosts in the face of things, and then it just like clicks really hard hitting bug buzzes and stuff like that. And it also gets scarf tinted lenses, which are a fun set. That's really all I have to say. It's just a good rain team.
Yeah,
with solid defensive capability and a lot of Pokemon that benefit from rain. I do think this Kingdra is going to go nuts with Flip Turn and Swift Swim. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. Just a good, solid rain team. So we can move on to the Marburg Magcargos, coached by Magcargo. Okay.
Shout out to Magcargo because it's an
Magcargo
awesome Pokemon and I love it.
He's a winner. Magcargo is a winner. Alright, just at first glance, this team, Tapu Lucha, Kyurem, Volcarona, now that it has boots, is nuts. This thing is incredibly dangerous in every single thing. In every game. 2 spinners, Toxic Spikes, 2 Stealth Rock Setters,
Magcargo also, so that's 3.
Yeah, and then Obstagoon hits really hard, and also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighting switch-ins. So Obstagoon has a really just free time smacking things with incredibly powerful stab facades with guts, and then on top of that, it's going to be very difficult to kill due to the fact that there are so many resists to fighting on this team. And on top of that, Volcarona, wait, it's like 1. Oh yeah, and there's also like 1, 2, 3, 4 fairy resists. So Obstagoon has a really good time just coming in and out, hitting things really, really hard, and just overall hitting like a truck with guts facade. This team really supports Obstagoon.
We also have that electric terrain core with Tapu Koko, Hawlucha, and Raichu being able to hit really hard once that terrain is up and fast.
Yeah, also Raichu Alola got Rising Voltage, which is going to be insanely good with Koko, because you just fast pivot out into Raichu, who has a base 140 stab special move, and that, like, what does Surge Surfer do? Put you at plus
times 2 speed, yeah.
It's really fast, and you did. anything that's not a ground type doesn't switch into this.
Yeah, you're not outspeeding Raichu Alola in electric terrain.
Unless you're already like +4. Or if you're speed boost and you have protect and focus sash. Because no ground types have speed boost. Yeah, and then like this team's removal is meh. I'm pretty sure it's just Tentacruel and like Hawlucha, who's never
Donphan.
running Defog. Yeah, and like double rapid spin's actually pretty good. Volcarona, very good sweeper. However, this team is pretty rock weak. Like 2 resists.
Bronzong and Donphan I could see being the main like bulky switch-ins in this team. But yeah, I think Donphan is really useful for this team because it's going to be switching in a lot, I think, to physical ground moves, especially threatening like Raichu and Tentacruel and Macargo and stuff. So Donphan will be a good physical switch-in that could also spin. So I think Donphan's definitely going to be really useful on this team.
Power Gem would hurt this team so badly. Since Donphan does not have good special defense. Bronzong also really helps, just having really good defenses overall and just like supporting this team. However, just looking at the speed tiers, you have like base 33 and base 30 with Magcargo and Bronzong, and then you have base 130 speed with Coco. So there's a huge disparity, and then you have 145 with Mega Sceptile. This team is also pretty ice weak, but it does have Magcargo and Volcarona to come into that.
Bronzong too.
And Tentacruel, so it's not actually that ice weak, but a lot of the offensive Pokemon don't really like ice moves other than Volcarona.
This team just looks pretty nice. I think the biggest trouble to this team is going to be really bulky ground types.
This team is all pretty Bolt Beam weak. Like Coco, neutral to ice. Lucha, weak to ice. Bronzong, neutral to electric. Donphan, weak to ice. Raichu, neutral to ice. Tentacruel, etc., etc. This team is pretty weak to Bolt Beam, but it's not like super weak. But it does have kind of a weakness there. I think it's overall just pretty solid defensively, pretty solid hazard-wise. It's just like once the defensive pieces start to crack, this team will start feeling a lot of pressure. Overall, it's going to start becoming hard once Donphan and Bronzong start taking chip, because neither of them have reliable recovery.
Yeah, that's true, and there's no Wish Passers, so that's going to be something that I think this team really wanted a Wish Passer.
This team's just going to have to go through teams fast, which I don't see having too big a problem with, actually. Just simply because Taboo Lucha and Sceptile, Kyurem, and Volcarona, as well as Obstagoon, just plowing teams. But if this team does have to go long game, it's going to struggle really badly.
Yeah.
Alright, we can move on to the next one, which is the Seattle Onyxes, coached by Balmius. Okay, Dragapult is one of the best draft mons for Nat decks, and is also really solid for Gen 8, like probably one of the best, if not the best Gen 8 OU. I don't think it's the best, but it's like top 3 or something. And Nat decks, it's also really, really strong.
So we have some really bulky Wish Passers, Chansey and Vaporeon being able to support the rest of the team with their wishes. Also Ferrothorn making that core, supporting that core. Fighting types could be pretty hard to deal with for that core, but Mesprit can somewhat deal with fighting types as long as they don't have a lot of coverage options that could break through.
Knockoff seems like something like Pangoro or Scrafty seems a little threatening to this team.
Yeah.
But then Glade kind of just comes in and they just die.
Yeah, Gallade is adequately placed on this team, I think, because it could handle the things that threaten the defensive mons on this team.
Also, before it evolves or mega evolves, it gets justified, so things that don't want to take a knock like Chansey or Mesprit might just end up boosting Gallade before it's mega evolved, and then it just mega evolves and kills stuff. Dragapult also helps kinda with fighting types if you need to switch into them. But if they have knockoff and they knock off your Dragapult, this thing is not super bulky. It's like enough to take one super effective hit from like weaker targets. But if it's like harder hitting, it will just straight up die to a knockoff in most scenarios. This team is really fat, and then this team has Landorus T, Gallade, Dragapult, and then Scyther, who got double wing beat with Choice Band, which is really, like, it hits really hard with Technician, because that's basically a Brave Bird, but no recoil, and it's 90% accurate. Not multiple defoggers, you've got, like, Mandibuzz. Does Mesprit get defog?
No.
I think it's just Mandibuzz, Landorus, and Scyther. I think some maybe defensive Scyther is usable on this team. And then you got, like, the Hazard God Ferrothorn, which is pretty solid. And then you got multiple rockers, actually. Multiple really good rockers, but the problem is your only method of removal is defogging. And then your only defogger is Mandibuzz. Unless you're running bulky Scyther or bulky Landorus T, which neither of those want to run because your team wants offense.
I could see a boosting Pokemon using Dragon Dance, for example, could take advantage of some of the passiveness of this team, like when Vaporeon, Chansey, for example, are out. It's going to have to really dance around like the defense and the offense. It could be a little bit hard managing the two, considering there's not that many pivots. Like Lando could pivot, but the defensive mons all can't, and this team is going to have to be careful of being too predictable with Wish and stuff like that, or stalling with Toxic, because a Pokemon could come in and then set up and then become a big threat.
Chansey does get Teleport, but it doesn't get Wish Teleport, I don't think. So that's just something to think about. And then, like, Dragapult and Mandibuzz both get to pivot, so he does have some pivots, and so he also has Jolteon, which adds to his pivot game even more. This team does protect Vaporeon very well, with Voltabsorb on Jolteon, Dragapult just coming in on electric moves, and also Landorus just being straight up immune to them.
Ferrothorn also being able to come in on grass.
Yeah, I think multiple flying types as well as just things weak to electric. This team does kind of support them pretty well. It's just like fast, hard-hitting sweepers might just run through this team if it's not careful. Like, if this team fought Pangoro would be a huge issue.
There's answers, but yeah, it really has to balance like some of those really strong Pokemon that could take advantage of the passivity of the defensive Pokemon.
Yeah. We can move on to the next one. The next team is the Indian Tyrantrums, coached by NSYT. Alright, just gonna look at this team real quick.
It's a cool Tyrantrum picture.
Yeah.
NSYT, if you drew that, kudos, it looks really good. We have two Paraflinchers on this team.
Someone's trying to be toxic, but works, it works. And then he also has like web support to help set them up even more. So that's a little scary off the bat. Garchomp is good on like 90% of drafts, so long as they have good ice resist. Blastoise is really good for this team because it just tanks the ice moves aimed at Togekiss and also Garchomp.
Yeah.
However, he only has like 2, technically 3 ice resist, or 4 ice resist. Technically 3. If you count Silvally, it's 4 though. So he's got decent ice resists. You never want to give Jirachi a free inning because then it'll just come and paralyze something and try to flinch hacks you to death. This team has like 2 defoggers. Does Blaziken get defog?
I don't think so.
Okay, so just Togekiss and Silvally defog. So I don't know how much this team wants to run those 2 every week, because Silvally is a pretty solid defogger because you can just adapt its typing to what you need it to be. Togekiss obviously just wants to be Paraflinch instead of bulky support most weeks. So this team will probably end up being forced to run a support Silvally majority of weeks, which is not nice. Tauros got buffed with the DLC moves. It no longer gets walled by bulky Ghost since it got Lash Out. And also Shaman, decent support. This team has a lot of support Pokemon, but I don't see any like true wall breakers other than like Blaziken.
Yeah, I think this team relies more on Paraflinches. I think bulky fighting types outside of Togekiss, but even if they have if they have good coverage and can predict that switch in, bulky fighting types can be a problem once Togekiss I can't speak, goes down. There are quite a few Pokemon that don't want to take close combats, for example, from like Conkeldurr or Machamp, let's say. So that's also something to keep into consideration, and this team's going to have to decide whether it wants to wish Togekiss or wish Jirachi or run Paraflinch sets, which, like, there's options, but it's going to be a hard decision since, like, Paraflinch is so good. You don't want to give that up to run Wish support sets.
I think Silvally is kind of forced to just run Silvally Ghost Defog in order to support Togekiss and Jirachi doing their things.
Absol could also be useful with Magic Bounce, but it's just such a risky Pokemon because it's so frail.
Yeah.
And again, we see the fighting types being problematic if they're bulky.
See, the thing is, this team doesn't have defoggers, really. Like, it doesn't have good defoggers, but, like, the thing is, the best way this team is gonna get defogs, if it's not, like, running Silvally or Togekiss, is by forcing the other team to defog for it. And then it has webs, which are really good for forcing the opponent to defog.
Yeah.
But then you only have 2 rockers. Oh yeah, Blastoise does get Rapid Spin. Completely forgot.
Outside of Blastoise, there are no ghost types, so like the opponent could also defog unless you're running Silvally Ghost, like you said, so that could also be a struggle. But overall, this team does look like it will benefit a lot from Sticky Web, Paralysis, Flinch, so I think that might be the main thing we're seeing from this team. Especially, like, other Pokemon could benefit too, like even Tauros with Headbutt. It doesn't get Serene Grace, but it could try to go for that if it wants to. Things like that.
Blaziken really likes web support since it doesn't get access to Speed Boost.
Yeah.
Alright, we can move on to the next team. The last team is the Cleveland S Cavaliers, coached by Crit. Alright. So, this team, offensive plus Steelix. and Amoonguss and Slowbro. Actually, it's not even that offensive.
Yeah.
It just has Megalopony and Blacephalon, and then like Mew if it's offensive. Oh yeah, Grimmsnarl, Prankster Screens makes this team very scary. Since Prankster Screens just basically doubles the defenses of Lopunny and Blacephalon. He has a Rapid Spinner. Wait, what? He has like a Defogger, a Rapid Spinner, and then like whatever Mew wants to be. And then Torterra, Drud, Set Rocks. That's the extent of his hazards.
It looks like a really solid team that handles a lot defensively and then could go offensive when it wants to.
Yeah, Grimmsnarl, Comfey, weak to Steel and Poison. Celesteela, the god, switches into both. And then it switches into like the majority of like pretty much every single unboosted neutral attack. Celesteela switches into. And then like, yeah, Celesteela is really good for this team because, you wall my Blacephalon, I'm gonna go Celesteela now. You wall my Megalopony, I'm gonna go Celesteela. Slowbro gets Teleport, Regenerator, which makes it this team just so easy to pivot into its offenses. And Spore with Amoonguss helps set up maybe Blacephalon and Mew if it's set up variant. Or it can help set up for a screen sweep with Grimmsnarl or a Calm Mind sweep with Comfey. This team, like, it seems really solid defensively. However, like, it's so limited offensively.
Yeah, offensively, it pretty much runs Blacephalon and Lopunny. I mean, there are other Pokemon that are defensive that can go offensive, like Druddigon, for example, or Mew.
Well,
Huh?
Grimmsnarl can if it wants to.
Grimmsnarl, for example, Torterra. And this team also looks like it could benefit from Trick Room with Slowbro and Mew can set up. So it could also do an unexpected and go for like Druddigon in Trick Room with Sheer Force. It could go for Torterra in Trick Room, which gets very nice. It has a really nice offense and good stab. So it has options, but in the traditional sense outside of Trick Room, it can be a little tough because once Megalopony or Blacephalon goes down, it's going to have to rely on more stall A tactics.
Yeah, so, like, set up Pokemon can plow through this team. Whoever drafted Pincurchin, they might have just drafted it for this team to stop Amoonguss. Forget what team it is. I'm gonna go check.
I think it was...
It was Grim City.
Yeah, Grim City
Glycopods.
Glycopods.
So that just stops Amoonguss from sleeping Melmetal, Metagross, etc. Which I guess is useful. If you're in this specific matchup alone, you use Pincurchin to block Amoonguss. I don't really have that much to say about this team. It's just like super defensive with like Blacephalon and Lopunny.
It looks like a really fun team. Like, out of all the teams there, I think this might be the team that I'd want to use if I was in this.
I'd use the Grim City Glycopod team. That one looks the most fun to me.
Yeah, let me see. Let's see.
That's who they play week 1.
That's funny, actually.
Wow, the CM Pincurchin into effect week 1.
Yeah, out of all the teams, I'd say the one I'd like the most is probably Cleveland Escavaliers. Which, by the way, shout out to you, Colin, for making that logo.
Pretty cool logo. I think that's just about it. I think that's all of the teams right now.
Yeah,
that's all of the teams.
10 teams, 10 Pokemon each. 100 Pokemon in total, actually.
I told you this was going to take an hour, and it did take an hour.
That was fun, though. It was interesting. Definitely
Yeah.
going to be an interesting league. This is Gracidea Season 1, and really interested to see what develops from this.
Yeah. I'm excited to see who wins this, because a lot of these teams look like they'd be really good against each other, and they just look like they'd be fun games to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, so that's about it.
Alright, well, thanks for tuning in. This is, once again, I'm Noel, and this is Colin, and hope you enjoyed our first impressions. Good luck to everybody who is in this league, and thank you to Crit for inviting us to do this, and to Science for forming this league and running it. Good luck, everybody, and enjoy.